Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Zees Political Couch. We're going to continue on with this free debate of Cenk versus Mosab, moderated by Piers Morgan, tackling the controversial death of Yahya Sinwar. We'll break down Mosab's problematic justifications, highlighting Cenk's strong rebuttals, and call out Piers' subjugated opinion. No filter, no holding back. Let's get into it.
So is there any legitimate form of resistance that the Palestinians could do where the Israelis wouldn't kill them? And we could say, oh, yeah, there you go. Let's fight for a state that way.
Let me put that.
No. They call everything terrorism.
Let me ask Mosab that very question, because that's been put to me by a lot of Palestinians, a lot of pro-Palestinian voices as well, which is it depends how you frame what Hamas and Hezbollah have been doing for the last 2 or 3 decades. You know, to many people where they come from, they are a form of resistance. To many people outside of the region, they're terrorists. I think you and I share our view about what we think they are, but clearly a lot of people in the Palestinian world believe that Hamas and Hezbollah are not terrorists, but are essentially a form of freedom fighter. What do you say to that?
Listen, killing, looting, raping, kidnapping are not forms of resistance. You know, Gandhi led resistance in India against the British. It was a peaceful resistance. It bare fruit eventually. But what so-called Palestinians and the Palestinian revolution, it's a revolution without a compass. It's going to nowhere, and nothing can satisfy their ambition. And it has never been a fight over land. It's a religious fight that started some 1,400 years ago. It's motivated by great hatred against the Jewish people. They don't want to accept the Jewish people to exist in that land. And the entire world is in denial in this fact. We say that this is the root cause problem, that the Muslims don't want the Jewish people to return to their homeland. The Jewish people are the indigenous of that land, with overwhelming evidence, as I told you in the past. The Muslims don't have any evidence that support actually their connection to that land. They are invaders, and the Palestinians invaded the land. They are not an ethnic group. Then now they have been trying so hard to delegitimize the Jewish people. And what I say to the Palestinians, first of all, you need to prove your legitimacy before you try to delegitimize the indigenous people of the land. Once you succeed of showing us who you are, then we may talk to you about a state. But to claim that you have the land, even though the indigenous of the land, the Jewish people, actually have been willing to share the land, and they were willing back in 1948 to share the land with the Arabs, but the Arabs refused. They had equal opportunity, just like the Jewish people, to declare their independence. But instead of declaring their independence back in 1948, they declared war against the Jewish people, only because they are Jewish people. Then 40 years later, in 1988, they declared their independence. So, once what so-called Palestinians drop their violent approach to the problem and accept Israel's right to exist in that region, then we can talk about things. But to really water it down and say that this is a conspiracy, people like Cenk, they are living in a conspiracy theory, alternative reality. We tell them that this war, that Sinwar started in Gaza, is a very dirty war. He weaponized civilians only to get sympathy of people like Cenk and many others around the globe. This is the most destructive weapon in the hands of Hamas, and millions around the world fell into this trap. So as long as we empower Hamas, more children are going to die. And if we don't remove Hamas from power, if we don't remove the Ayatollah from power, then this endless and vicious cycle of violence will continue for eternity. It's as simple as that. But of course, in the meantime, we are aware of the suffering of the children. The children of Gaza were born Arab. They were born innocent. They were not born Palestinians. Then they had been indoctrinated to hate. They have been indoctrinated to blame Israel. As Cenk right now, he has been blaming Israel since the beginning of the war, but now he sees the defeat of Hamas. So now he's changing his tone a little bit, his attitude. And I like his cleverity. He's a very clever Palestinian. He's the perfect example of a Palestinian, by the way. Cenk, just right there. Because Palestinian is not limited to Gaza. Palestinian is a syndrome. It's a mental illness. It's a universal phenomenon. And Cenk is the perfect example. And if he gets hungry eventually, I will not be surprised that he will eat his own children.
Okay, or Cenk, your response.
Okay, so you would like me to respond to a guy who just escaped from a mental asylum. Okay.
This is the turning point of the debate. Cenk directly calls out the imbalance of power, framing the treatment of Palestinians as a moral failure tied to Israel's own history of repression. His statement is bold, emotional, and almost impossible to ignore. It's the kind of argument that shifts the entire conversation, challenging not just policies, but principles. Watch closely here. Does Mosab rise to meet this challenge, or does this leave him on the defense?
If he calls me a Palestinian...
You are the one who should go to a mental asylum.
Okay. If he calls me a Palestinian, I am incredibly proud to bear that name. Thank you for making me an honorary Palestinian. The whole world should be honorary Palestinians for the suffering that they have gone through and the brutal slaughter of the Palestinians at the hands of the Israelis. So I don't want the audience to get confused. Mossad is an Israeli agent. He's a turncoat. He doesn't believe that the Palestinians should exist. But it's okay. I don't have to clarify it much because he just told you. He thinks that Palestinians don't exist and that they have no rights and that they are the ones encroaching on the indigenous land of the Israelis. I mean, look, I know if you're an Israeli supporter, some of you have lost your mind so much that you believe that the Muslims there that have been living there for centuries, millennium, are somehow in your way and they should just be dispensed with, and that the real, true heirs of that land are the people that were brought in from Europe and other places. Look, the Jewish people have suffered greatly throughout history, and anyone who denies that is denying reality. But now it breaks my heart to see that they have become what they most despised. They escaped that kind of brutality only to do it to the Palestinians now. So if you notice, Mossad over there never answered the question. There is no standard that the Palestinians can ever meet. They even say absurd things like they don't exist, that this Palestinian state should never exist, Palestinians as an ethnicity should never exist. And then they have the temerity to say, can you believe that they theoretically don't think that Israel should have a right to exist, even though it's existed since 1948. It's one of the biggest militaries in the world, backed by the greatest military power in the history of the world. It has nuclear weapons. Your existence is rock solid. You're murdering Palestinian
But that doesn't. But hang on, Cenk.
Wake
but Cenk,
up.
let me jump in there.
Wake up.
Cenk, that doesn't change
so you didn't
the
jump
fact.
in as the lunatic was saying
hang
things,
on.
but go ahead.
Cenk, that doesn't change the premise of the argument that Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Iranian regime, none of them accept the existence of an Israeli state. And they are all wedded.
It appears.
Well, hang on. Let me finish.
Let me
finish my question.
Okay,
and they're all wedded to its destruction. That's the point. It's not a question of whether it does exist.
No.
It's that all those groups
insane.
want to eradicate it. They're open about it.
Okay, Piers, let's look at your framing, okay? So in the reality-based world, Palestine does not exist because Israel is blocking its existence. Its cabinet voted to say that a Palestinian state will never exist. They will never allow it. So you're not worried that in the real world, the Palestinians are not allowed to exist, and if they resist at all, their brutal 57-year humiliating occupation, they're called terrorists, they're the worst people on earth, we should hate them all, and they should never be allowed to exist. That's the real world. Israel exists and is one of the largest militaries in the world.
Yeah, but you're missing my point again, deliberately. I think you're deliberately missing my point.
Hold on. Okay, Piers, let me finish. Now, meanwhile, you live in a theoretical world where you say these powerless people who have no ability to affect Israel's existence at all, the Palestinians are literally throwing stones. They bomb back to the Stone Age. They have no power at all.
Hezbollah's been firing
You're
rockets.
saying, hold on. If you ask me a question, let me answer the goddamn question.
You are making wrong statements,
Okay,
Cenk.
you're being a ridiculous, unfair, ridiculous person.
I'm picking
all right,
you up
go
on...
and join the Mossad over here with him.
I'm picking you up. His name is Mosab, by the way, with a B. But the
Mossad, right? That's who he works for, and that's who he's
his name
after.
is Mosab. And he works...
Oh, he's Mosab that works for Mossad. Okay, got it.
And the reason we haven't got him on screen at the moment, we've got a technical problem with him, which we're trying to fix. So you and I will keep talking. No, I think that you're deliberately... I think you're deliberately avoiding the point I'm making, which is...
No, I'm getting to the point you're making if you stop cutting me off.
Okay, but you're making
So
misleading
do I
statements.
think
You're
that
saying
Iran
you're saying these people are throwing rocks at Israel. They're doing a lot more than throwing rocks. Hezbollah's been firing rocket after rocket after rocket. Hamas has been launching terror attacks. The Houthis have been firing rockets. The Iranians are funding it all. It's not just rock throwing, Cenk, is it?
Okay, Piers, you're making it sound, this is the frame of all Western media, that the Palestinians and the Arabs and the Muslims are so strong, they're about to wipe out poor little Israel, who's barely existing right now, poor little David, and this Goliath Arabs are about to wipe them out. Are you crazy?
I said they would like to.
Israel is the... Okay, what an absurd thing. Okay, so here, Piers. African National Congress resisted the apartheid in South Africa. They did it through terrorism, they killed civilians, and they did it through peace, they did it through both. They were both terrorists and resistance fighters. They were both of those things. And you can be both of those things. What you would say right now is the African National Congress didn't want white South Africa to exist. They wanted them to be wiped out. The African National Congress are terrorists. They're the worst people. We have to keep apartheid because those guys are terrorists. We have to keep apartheid because they don't want South Africa to exist as it currently is. So no, that's absurd. So if you say to me, should Israel exist? Of course Israel should exist. Of course they should be a safe haven. But they're saying, no, Cenk, you're right, Israel should exist, but Palestine shouldn't. And you're saying I'm the one that's being unfair?
I haven't said that. Why are you putting words in my mouth?
Absurdity of that?
Why are you putting words in my mouth? I never said that.
Okay, Piers, do you see the absurdity?
I didn't say that,
the
Cenk.
Israelis not only existing, but occupying the Palestinians for 57 years and preventing their state, and then claiming that their right to existence is somehow in jeopardy, but the Palestinians isn't. So for God's sake, what can the Palestinians do for these Israelis to free them, to give them their state and to stop occupying them?
Let me bring, we've got Mosab back.
Israelis, I'm begging you to stop being so brutal, stop being the thing that you hated. Stop being the thing that oppressed you in the first place. These Palestinians are not Nazis. You're fighting a ghost. No, the people who are being the fascists here, I hate to do this because it's breaking my heart and it should break your heart. You're being the fascists. You're the ones slaughtering their civilians. Look, how do you look at those children being starved to death in northern Gaza and not see Jewish children in Germany in the 1930s and 40s? How do you not see that? It's the same exact image. Snap out of it.
Oh, but Cenk,
stop being the thing that you hated.
All right, Cenk, before I go to Mosab for a response, how do you not see, conversely, that what happened on October the 7th was to Jewish people not dissimilar to what the Nazis did to them in World War II? How do you not see that parallel?
No, it is not similar at all.
It is.
At all, Piers.
It is. It's a group wedded to the destruction of all Jewish...
It's insanity.
Let me finish my question.
Stop saying the same things.
It is a group wedded, in the case of the Nazis, to the eradication of all Jewish people, as indeed are Hamas. What's the difference?
Okay, this is a convenient talking point to justify...
What's the difference?
Actually preventing the Palestinians from existing.
Tell me the moral difference.
What is wrong with you people?
Tell me the moral difference.
In reality... So, yes, of course I'll tell you the difference. So what they did on October 7th was terrible. I hate any civilians being killed. I hate terrorism. That is why Netanyahu is an awful, disgusting terrorist. He's killed 30 to 40 times the number of civilians that Sinwar did. What an awful, despicable terrorist he is. So now guys, October 7th can be terrible, but at the same time you can acknowledge the power dynamic of who is stronger and who is not. Why does that make a difference? Because The Nazis were the more powerful force. They had every ability to wipe out the Jews, and they tried. The powerful force, Goliath, the Nazis were horrible for what they did to the Jews. When the French resistance fought back and killed German civilians, it might have been the wrong strategy. It might have been immoral to kill German civilians. But the French resistance was not, oh, they're trying to wipe out Germans from existence, so the French resistance is bad. They should surrender to the Nazis. No, they were the powerless. The powerless always do ineffective violence that we call terrorism. And then to say, no, it's their fault that the powerless are going to somehow wipe out the powerful. No, you're framing it in a way that is totally hypothetical and theoretical because you want to avoid the reality of what is actually happening in the world, which is the Israelis wiping out the Palestinians, slaughtering them, tens of thousands
All right, let
at
me
a
bring in
time,
Mosab.
taking their land.
All right, Mosab, your response.
Wow, where do I begin? To analyze the mental state of this self-proclaimed savior of the Gaza children. He really touched my heart. Who authorized you to speak on behalf of the Arab children of Gaza? Who authorized you?
You just did. You
You've
called me
never
a
been
Palestinian.
there. You don't care.
So am I
And
Palestinian or
now
am I
you
not?
think you hold the higher moral ground. You don't.
I do.
You're not the savior. You always need a victim in order to pose as the savior. You're not the savior. First, learn how to control yourself. Learn how to control your tongue buds before you try to control the world. It's a big situation in Gaza. All of us are heartbroken for the death of the children of Gaza.
This debate isn't just about two people sparring over politics. It's about the very soul of one of the most complex conflicts in modern history. Both Cenk and Mosab brought passion and conviction. But did either truly deliver a solution? That's for you to decide. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think made the strongest case here? And don't forget, this is just the beginning. If you're ready for more raw, unfiltered takes on the world's most pressing issues, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. I'll see you in the next one, where the analysis get deeper, the stakes get higher, and the debates get even hotter. Until then, stay curious and stay critical.